News Channel 5.
This is the CBS Evening News. Connie Chung reporting. Good evening. Intense negotiations continue tonight between Panama, the Vatican, and the U.S. over the fate of General Manuel Noriega, with his release appearing at times imminent. But Doug Tennell reports that part of the problem is a serious conflict inside the new Panamanian government.
7 days after Manuel Noriega sought refuge behind these walls, there are signs that negotiations on his fate have intensified dramatically. A senior church official is quoted as expressing hopes today that an agreement on turning Noriega over could come very soon, perhaps even tonight. Senior U.S. military officers and diplomats were seen arriving in buildings adjacent to the Vatican Embassy compound today. The U.S. crisis management team has been using a school opposite the embassy as one of its headquarters. Church officials described the contacts as intense. One possible snag over the talks on Noriega, a dispute within the new Panamanian government over how to handle the affair.
Juicio de Manuel Antonio Noriega.
Panama's Attorney General announced today that he would file charges against Noriega within the next 2 days, along with a demand that the Vatican turn Noriega over for trial here. The announcement is especially significant because the Vatican has said from the outset that legally it could only turn Noriega over to Panamanian, not U.S. authorities. But there is a catch. While the Attorney General was briefing reporters on his bid to bring Noriega to trial, Panama's new president emerged from a church service with a very different position on Manuel Noriega's future.
We are not ready for him. We cannot give him due process. That he should not be turned over to us, that he should be turned over to the Americans.
The discord was unmistakable. Government sources said there is no consensus on what to do about Noriega, and some fear prolonged debate could tear Panama's new administration apart. Ironically, it comes just as there are signs that Panamanians are more united than ever in calling for Noriega to be brought to justice. It was the first Sunday of calm since the invasion, the first chance for many to reflect on what for Panama has been a truly historic turn of events. As the country's main airport reopened, it was also the first opportunity for Panamanians to return here, some from political exile, others just caught in transit. But there is a sense that it's not really over yet, that one task remains unfinished, the capture of Manuel Noriega. It may happen soon. We're really down to reading tea leaves here tonight. The movement of U.S. troops has continued throughout the day. One former Noriega associate told us earlier today that he believes Noriega may have already agreed to give himself up. But the big questions now are to whom and when. Connie?
Thank you, Doug Tennell in Panama City. President Bush, who is vacationing in Texas, flew to San Antonio today to visit American soldiers wounded during the Panamanian invasion. Norman Robinson has more.
Calling them gutsy and courageous young men, President Bush shook hands with 45 wounded soldiers at 2 military hospitals in San Antonio.
You were in the door, Gunner?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The President and the First Lady were both moved as they walked among the men who reached out to greet them. Men who, in spite of their wounds, said they were proud to have served their country.
That's what we do for a living. That's our job. It's history, and I had a small part in it.
Choking back tears, President Bush described his visits with the soldiers and their families as particularly rough for him.
I get the feel of their patriotism and their courage, and I'll tell you, it was very, very moving for me and for Barbara.
The president was asked if he could tell the soldiers about the status of efforts to get Noriega out of the Vatican embassy.
Well, we can tell him that he's not out threatening the lives of Americans, and that he's... and that's a good message for them. I get strength from them, about no second guessing. They're gutsy, courageous young men.
The Bush administration apparently does not want to run the risk of further damaging the already strained relations with the Vatican, and so it continues to maintain a low profile on negotiations to get custody of Noriega. A White House spokesman said again today that negotiations are continuing and that the situation is yet to be resolved. But no one in the administration is denying that a deal is imminent. Norman Robinson, CBS News, San Antonio.
Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, some of our CBS News correspondents will be in to talk about the big stories of this year and to look ahead to the new year. It's already 1990 in some parts of the world. Just a short time ago, Moscow rang in the new.
To my beautiful wife.
It's nice to know he still loves the way you look. And if you wear dentures, you can count on Effordent to freshen up dentures and clean away stains so well. With Effordent, all he'll notice is you.
How fast does Dristan nasal spray start to work?
Faster than a teenager can answer the phone.
Dristan spray pump works fast to relieve congestion, even sinus pressure. For relief...
Faster than tumbleweed in a tornado.
Dristan nasal spray. It's faster than...
Every morning, they go to work. Over 10 million phone cards from U.S. Sprint. The only card that gives you 100% fiber optic sound quality and rates that are still up to 25% lower than AT&T. To get yours free without changing phone companies, call Sprint now. The phone card. In a world that works 24 hours a day, it's the hardest working card in the world.
Now, you get more chances to be a millionaire than ever before at American Family. You may be the winner of this million or that million, this one or that one, and on to the biggest prize of all, $20 million. Watch me announce the winning numbers on TV this January 26th. Come get rich. $20 million rich at American Family. The only sweepstakes with my picture. Enter today.
Israel's coalition government is in danger of collapse tonight. Prime Minister Shamir fired a cabinet minister, charging him with betraying Israel to the PLO. More on the story from Lawrence Rifkin.
The firing took place at a routine cabinet meeting. Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir accused Science Minister Ezer Weizmann of having met and maintained contacts with the outlawed PLO.
The Prime Minister said that this was a violation of the Israeli law and a violation of the government of Israel's policy, the stated policy.
Weizmann is in favor of such contacts, though he refused to say whether any meetings took place. His sudden firing was enough to send his Labour Party colleagues on the warpath against Shamir.
If he doesn't change his mind, there is no unity government.
This prompted Shamir to make a rare televised appeal to the nation. It was simple, he said. He can't have a renegade in his cabinet. At an emergency nighttime meeting, Labour Party leaders gave Shamir 48 hours to reinstate Weizmann, but the Prime Minister has vowed that he won't. Weizmann still seemed unfazed by his firing and the resulting crisis.
Things are going to move in the right way, because this decision will force both parties to make their minds up.
And that's what's really at stake here, a decision on the peace process. Weizmann says a government crisis will force his own party to take a hard look at remaining in coalition with a government which he says is not pursuing peace. Lawrence Rifkin, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Romania's new leaders today guaranteed a multi-party political system. They also announced a visit by Soviet Foreign Minister Shevardnadze next weekend. Martha Teichner reports on how the new year in Romania will be unlike any other in recent times.
New Year's Eve 1989. Romanians will remember it as much because they could buy coffee again, as they will because the Ceausescu nightmare is finally over. Never mind that to get just one can, people were practically crushing each other, that in order to buy a single bottle of wine for the holiday, they stood in a line a block long. Some things don't change, but others do. For the first time in years, oranges shipped in from Greece are headed to the shops, not to the Communist Party elite. The doors to the warehouses are suddenly open. When the revolution came, trainloads of food for export to the Soviet Union were stopped and brought back to feed Romanians. Canned meat, wine, sugar, nothing fancy. But the warehouse foreman says he's never seen anything like it in his life. The whole nation is grateful. No one will see the end of a year with more relief than the Romanians, the beginning of a new one with more hope.
For all Romanians is a special New Year's Eve because it will bring us a lot of happiness, a lot of good things.
Even the fact that we are talking with you, it's very special for us.
It should be better to not to be communist anymore.
This was the happiest New Year in my life, and a new life will begin for all of us. What we can't lose, the people who died. So many friends of mine died. so many students.
Never to be forgotten here. The death of friends, the death of a tyranny, the death of a year like no other. The birth of a new Romania. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Bucharest.
In this country, Chief Justice William Rehnquist called on Congress today to create 75 more federal judgeships. In his annual year-end report, Rehnquist said that without the new judges, the war on drugs will be lost. California is declaring war on military assault rifles with a new law that goes into action tomorrow. Ron Allen reports.
Gun control forces in California had been trying to outlaw assault rifles for several years. The ban that goes into effect at midnight narrowly passed the legislature last May after the state's anti-gun control governor supported it, along with law enforcement officials across California.
We in law enforcement are tired of going to the funerals of fellow officers that are gunned down with these kinds of military weapons that have no essential sporting purpose at all.
The ban passed the legislature just a few months after a drifter clad in army fatigues named Patrick Purdy sprayed more than 100 rounds from an assault rifle at a schoolyard full of children in Stockton. 5 children and a teacher died. Sale or possession of 55 types of semi-automatic weapons will now be against the law. Owners who purchased their guns before June of last year can legally register the rifles. Officials estimate some 2 million weapons could be affected. But on the eve of the ban, gun enthusiasts still argue the law goes after the wrong target.
What we need to do is we need to crack down on criminals and punish criminals and not punish the law-abiding public. And that's what this bill is going to do.
While no one believes California's notorious gang members will start turning in their weapons, law enforcement insists the ban will reduce the availability of very dangerous weapons and take some of them off the streets.
Most law enforcement has indicated that already there is a reduction in the use of assault weapons in our state.
Opposition is already forming in other states considering a ban on assault weapons. But the anti-gun lobby in California plans to capitalize on victory. Numerous other gun control measures defeated in the past will be heading through the legislature once again. Ron Allen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
A lot of other new laws take effect with the new year. In the heart of tobacco country, a tough anti-smoking law kicks in Greensboro, North Carolina. And in California, state agencies will now have to answer their phones by the 10th ring. Then they can put you on hold.
New Year's, get 2 for $1 and 2 for $1 here today. Check them out.
Grandma, isn't this fun?
I want my Serta.
Why do people want a Serta? The answer is the exclusive Serta Surface. It'll spoil you for sleeping any other way. So get a Serta Perfect Sleeper.
I want my Serta.
Get your perfect sleeper this week during the Great Serta Sale of the Decade. You'll save big and sleep more comfortably. Now at participating retailers.
If oat bran made news, this should make history. Psyllium, an important ingredient in a new cereal from Kellogg's, Heartwise. Psyllium is a natural grain with more than 8 times the soluble fiber of oat bran. And that gives the delicious, naturally crunchy flakes of Heartwise the highest level of soluble fiber you can find in a cereal. Heartwise. To get more than just oat bran, take a word to the wise.
Having the flu is a nightmare. Your throat's so sore. You're congested. You cough. Body aches all over. But now there's Theraflu, the first and only hot medicine made just for flu symptoms. Theraflu, with a hot liquid like doctors recommend. Strong therapy for fever and cough. Strong therapy for aches and pains. Next time the flu strikes you, strike back with Theraflu.
1989 will go down as a turning point in the history of the world, with unprecedented reforms in the Soviet bloc and dramatic battles for freedom. To talk about where we will go from here, we called in Chief European Correspondent Tom Fenton, who's been covering the changing face of communism in Eastern Europe, Richard Schlesinger, following developments in Latin America, and joining us from Bucharest, Bob Simon, who is busy this year covering China and the Middle East. Let's start with the Middle East, Bob, where Israeli Science Minister Ezer Weizmann was fired today for talking with the PLO. Bob, what does this say about the prospects for peace there?
Connie, it's clear that despite the momentous events in Eastern Europe and this part of the world,
The Israeli-Palestinian situation has not moved from dead center. They're as far from talking to each other as they were a year ago. Standing here, it's clear that the European earthquake is beginning to be felt in the Middle East. The aftershocks are clear. The old regimes in Eastern Europe were all very pro-Palestinian, pro-Arab. The new governments in the making will be very open to Israel. The Israelis have so many deep, lasting ties and bonds to Eastern Europe. So many Israelis are from Eastern Europe that the opportunities for Israel in this part of the world will now be enormous. But these people who have all known occupation by proxy will not be sympathetic to Israeli occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. If Israel moves, if Israel decides to move now or soon, the opportunities can be enormous.
Tom Fenton, we saw the communist world basically crack open, and the patron of change was Mikhail Gorbachev. When will we see an explosion in the Soviet Union?
I think next year is certainly going to be the year of the Soviet Union. The Soviets cannot sit and watch one by one the former captive regimes of Eastern Europe become free, the communist parties to give up their claim to absolute power, to see free elections, which we'll have next year, all beginning in March up through June. Without some of the same demands coming from the Soviet Union, we'll begin to see very quickly more pressure from the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and rumblings probably from the western Ukraine and Georgia. By the end of the year, the Soviet Union will not look like the Soviet Union looks at the end of this year.
Richard Schlesinger, we're seeing new forms of government in Eastern Europe, new forms of government now in Panama, elections coming up in Nicaragua.
I think the final chapter is yet to be written in Central and all over Latin America, actually. In Panama, you know, the Endara government is facing a daunting task in rebuilding the law enforcement apparatus, rebuilding the government institutions in a post-Noriega, or at least what everybody assumes will be a post-Noriega atmosphere. This is a country that, as of last week, had no way of enforcing its laws, and that's going to be a big challenge. Nicaragua, I think everybody is waiting to see how these elections scheduled for February will go. There have been scattered acts of violence this time around, just as there have been, you know, in previous attempts at elections where Sandinista loyalists disrupt campaigns, and that raises real serious questions about how fair, how free those elections are going to be. The one country that I think is going to be most interesting to watch, though, is going to be Colombia, which, as you know, is facing a power struggle within itself where the opposition in this case are criminal bands of violent drug traffickers who are challenging the government very effectively. And there's going to be a real test there.
And Bob Simon, the one country that you were in, China, that was not able to achieve change, will we see an emergence of the pro-democracy movement again in the 1990s?
Connie, the parallels between what's happened in Romania and what almost happened in China must be very frightening to the old men in Beijing. At the same time, they still do have their hands on the levers of power. They had an army in such a vast country where they could move soldiers into Beijing who barely spoke Mandarin and who were willing to open fire on the people, and presumably still will be, as long as those old men can continue to keep people out of the streets, which they can do. I'm afraid that the outlook for the next year in China is probably more of the same.
Tom Fenton, I think the one fear that some people have is the changes occurring so rapidly in Eastern Europe. Is there a potential for anarchy?
There is a potential for anarchy, and it will come probably from, not from political changes, but from the economic problems that Eastern Europe faces. You already hear rumblings of this in Hungary, people saying that, well, you know, you can't eat politics. Maybe we've had enough politics. You can't clothe your family with politics. I think that's one of the problems. The other problem are the old frontiers of that were fixed after World War II in Yalta, that were fixed after World War I. These frontiers are now being questioned for the first time. The first one to be changed will certainly be the inter-German frontier between East Germany and West Germany. We're no longer going to have a neat situation in which the Soviet Union took care of its half of Europe, the United States and NATO took care of the other half. We're going to go back to old-fashioned Central European politics, and that, as you know, has led to two conflicts.
I think that the one thing that all of these new leaders are going to learn, both in Central America, South America, and in Eastern Europe, is that seizing power is a lot easier than exercising power. They're going to now have to do something with these countries that they've inherited. Endara in Panama, all of the playwrights and protest leaders in Eastern Europe, And that's going to be a very tough lesson for them, I think, because it's on their shoulders. The ball is in their court. They've got to make these countries work now.
Richard Schlesinger, Tom Fenton, Bob Simon, thank you for being with us. We'll be back in a moment to look domestically back and forward to the 1990s.
All of GM going all out for you.
There they are, the critics. I was just like them, talking cars, dreaming cars. Okay, so we're still in it. It's incredible. At GM, I work on a design. I think it's pretty neat. And one day, it's out where everyone can see it. Okay, be cool. Let's see what these guys think.
For 1990, GM offers American car buyers more new models than any other automaker in the world. GM, the mark of excellence.
It's real. Bob's real.
Well, I know Bob Castleberry. He's real.
Bob Castleberry really won $10 million in the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes.
It's really nice to know that real people win this. I know it's for real now.
He showed me the check.
It's a fact. Scout's honor.
Hey, it's for real, definitely.
I'm really a believer. I mean, that is just wonderful.
Enter the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes fast, and on January 26th, you could be a millionaire.
Send it in every time. I mean, the minute you get it, take it to the post office the next day.
Domestic news has taken a backseat to developments overseas recently. That could change in the new year. It's a congressional election year, and you can expect the hot issues to include abortion, drugs, AIDS, and the economy. To talk about that and more, we are joined by CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Leslie Stahl, Chief Political Correspondent Bruce Morton, and CBS News Business Correspondent Ray Brady. Ray, I'll start with you. Since there are improved relations with the Soviet Union, we can talk about something called the peace dividend, meaning perhaps there might be less defense spending, and the burning question is, will there be more spending domestically?
Yeah, well, I think, Connie, the peace dividend could be a great thing for us down the road. You know, the one thing, or one of the few things that made the Japanese economy so much better than our own is that while we were spending billions of dollars on defense, they were putting billions of dollars into research for consumer products and that sort of thing, and that built up their economy. So obviously, down the road, when we get the peace dividend, we can spend more on various domestic programs and on research to help us compete with the world market. On the other hand, it's going to take time to get to that peace dividend, because the admirals and the generals obviously are going to be slow to cut back on their own spending. And then you've got a lot of communities, you've got a lot of states in this country that have been living off the defense dole, if you want to call it that, for the past 45 or 50 years. Companies that build only fighter planes, whenever they've tried to build other things, they've had a lot of bad luck. So that what you're going to see probably at some point will be unemployment rising at these companies, and you'll see congressmen starting to complain, starting to yell. So in short, the peace dividend, when it comes, will be wonderful. It'll be a great aid to the economy, but it's going to take some time.
Leslie Stahl, President Bush would like to see that peace dividend to provide him with a dividend so he can keep his promise, no new taxes. But as Ray Brady tells us, it's down the road.
Well, first off, Connie, no new taxes is one of the major accomplishments of this first year, and the president gives all signs that that's going to be a promise he's going to carry over at least into next year. But we have very serious problems in this country that are not being attended to, despite a lot of activist rhetoric at the beginning of the year. There are the 2 Ds and the 2 Es mainly: drugs, deficit, environment, and education. And despite the fact that these are kind of ticking little bombs that keep getting worse and worse and worse, not much is being done with any of them. As far as the public is concerned, however, like our government, all our eyes, and I think we're all like this, are on very short-term problems, very short-term gains. We don't like to think long-term, any of us, in our private lives or our public lives. So these are problems for down the road. We're not solving them now because they're for later. And I don't see any move, any impetus in the administration and the government as a whole to really tackle them in the next year or the year after that, frankly.
Bruce Morton, do you agree with Leslie that there was indeed a failure of government, perhaps in the entire decade?
Well, no, not in the entire decade. I think Ronald Reagan did, for instance, in his first term, a number of the things he wanted to do. He cut taxes, and he greatly increased defense spending, and he got elected by such an enormous majority that he could say to the Congress, let's go, let's do these things, and the Congress did. Mr. Bush didn't get elected about anything very much. Don't Worry, Be Happy was the theme song of the campaign. A lot of it related to the flag and a convict who'd been released on parole named Willie Horton. And so it's we're not doing very much. We have the president has a big thing about education, and so there's a photo op, an education summit. We have a drug photo op. But there isn't any money for any of these things. The president knows that, and the Congress knows that, and between them, they're not doing anything about any of these things.
All right. Thank you, Bruce Morton. Ray Brady, very quickly in 15 seconds, a look economically to the future.
I don't think you'd want to look too closely at it, Connie, because it's going to be very, very slow. We're probably going to just skirt a recession. It's going to be very uncomfortable for a lot of people, at least for the first half of the year.
All right. Thank you. Ray Brady, Leslie Stahl, Bruce Morton. Have a Happy New Year to all of you. And that's our news. Later tonight, be sure to join Richard Schlesinger, sitting in for Bill Plant on the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Connie Chung in New York. I'll see you again tomorrow night. I'll be here sitting in for Dan Rather. Thank you for joining us, and for all of us at CBS News, have a Happy New Year.
I'm famous for freshness in the fridge, but I can't be in two places at once.
So put a second box in the freezer, because frankly, you cubes don't smell too good.
Well, we get stuck with odors up here, too.
Absorbing odors is what Arm & Hammer baking soda does best. I'll keep ice cubes smelling fresh and ice cream tasting great.
Arm & Hammer baking soda. One in the fridge
and one in the freezer.
Oh, no. Not today.
All callers, please register at the desk.
I can't have this arthritis pain today.
Good luck.
Oh, please, not today. Anacin.
When relief is a must, reach for Anacin. The Anacin formula gives you more medicine than regular aspirin for hours of relief from minor arthritis pain. Anacin, when relief is a must.
You're up.
I'm sleeping.
You were walking.
I was walking in my sleep.
Have your coffee.
Hey, yours is darker than mine.
Mine's decaffeinated Folgers crystals. Yours is the decaffeinated you always drink.
Did you use the same amount?
Yeah, watch. Mine's mountain grown Folgers.
Nice aroma.
A sip?
Yeah. I thought I was the reason you're always so bright-eyed in the morning.
Oh, you are.
Decaffeinated Folgers crystals. So dark and rich, shouldn't you switch?
I'm Kathleen Sullivan.
And I'm Harry Smith.
All of us at CBS This Morning want to wish you a happy and a healthy new year.
This is CBS.
Good evening.